where we had lots of money. Dad had yachts and stuff. Police were after him, so he got arrested. We lost everything.
My wife always says to me, she goes, you could sell anything to anyone, because I feel sales and commission only is a huge opportunity for people and a big skill that you need to have.
You can't just bowl into selling. You need to understand the customer first.
Yeah.
You need to listen, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be a listener. Find out what's important to us.
Justin, I'm scared of AI. It's coming, but we're adopting it. So welcome everybody to another episode of the J2Hub Podcast. Back again here in my favorite studio in Business Bay. And today I'm joined by someone who I've been trying to pin down for a long time. Every time I have a conversation with this guy, it goes on for hours. So I thought, you know what, let's get him pinned down on a podcast and really go through what's going through his mind, because he's done some fantastic stuff over the last few years, well, probably over the last couple of decades. And now, in my opinion, is living the ultimate life that everybody would want. So Justin, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this morning on an early Friday morning.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, my man.
Well, look, I've known you for a while now. I was going to say I've known you for years. I haven't actually known you for years.
Yeah.
Probably only a couple of years when I spotted you in Charlie's event. I thought, wow, there's a fellow old boy in this home.
The grey hair was the giveaway.
That's it. Yeah. So I haven't really known you that long, but what you've done in that period of time has been phenomenal. Maybe you don't see it because you're in it all the time, but for someone like me who's on the outside and I see what you've done, it's very, very inspirational. And I've said this to you many times, like, I look in as someone who's only a few years younger than you, and I think, you know what? This guy's got it right. He's panned it out right in what he's done. And maybe you don't take credit for that because you don't see it. But from somebody outside who sees it all the time, I wanted to get in and just pick your mind a little bit. But let's start first of all. Obviously, when you look at yourself online and you do a bit of a search for Justin, you are Mr. MCG, right?
Mr. Recruitment in Dubai. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody, if you say, Justin, oh yeah, that recruitment guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mr. MCG.
Yeah.
But I want to go back a few years. I want to go back to back in when you were in London, when you started your career. Where did Justin start? Because obviously right now, everybody sees the flash stuff, right? They'll see you, nice car, nice house, all of that, living it. Drinking champers at 9 o'clock in the morning on a plane, whatnot. Rare occasion. But where did it all start for you? Because obviously it didn't start like this. It must have been a serious hustle. Let's take you back to 18.
Yeah, 18. Well, if you don't mind, I probably make sense to go a little bit before 18.
Okay, fine.
Just because I suppose a lot of what motivates me, my whole kind of drive comes from the fact that I was brought up in pretty much a single parent household. So I am still to this day completely driven by fear. And in order to find that origin of fear, you have to look at what happened in my early childhood. And that was, I had a successful father, but also was an alcoholic. And I brought up in this just crazy environment where my dad would sort of make these big deals and then he'd disappear for a few days and literally vanish. And then arrived back and he'd been on a binge. But he was so wild that he'd tell my mum he was going to make a bet on the horses. He'd take a taxi to Heathrow Airport, get on Concorde and go to New York, right? And just go on a bender in America. And then she would get a phone call from a hotel in America saying, "Are you Mrs. McGuire?" The thick American accent, which I won't do. Your husband's here. Can someone come and get him? And mum would literally have to go over and get him. So it was this, this just wild. It's hard to describe growing up in this sort of in that environment where you just had this life where I was brought up. I lived in the UK until I was 6, and then grew up in Spain from 6 to 10. Now, I don't talk about this a lot, but I'll cover. My father was involved in what was known as the largest ever fraudulent deal between America and US. So it actually was on the run. So I was brought up in Spain, surrounded by, at the time, criminals on the run from the UK. Because at the time, Spain didn't have an extradition treaty with the UK. So I was brought up, my neighbours were the Brinksmat robbery gang and stuff like that. So it was a wild upbringing where we had lots of money. Dad had yachts and stuff. And we moved back to the UK, and it's like everything started to catch up with him. So as he got older, the alcoholism, he couldn't, the drinking he couldn't take so well. The police were after him, so he got arrested. We lost everything. So all this extravagant lifestyle we had completely went. And in the end, my father ended up getting extradited and put in prison in America. And, I was brought up by my mum. And I didn't really see my father from, I think from the age, he left when I was about 14, 15. He briefly came back into my life when I was about 17, 18. And then disappeared for some time and died when I was 21.
Okay.
So pretty much I was then, for that important chunk of my life, my mum brought me up, and we went, we were on benefit. Now, unfortunately, I was quite good at sport, and I got into a nice school, and my father had put some money, helped put some money in and got me into that school. But so I went to this unreal school where everyone kind of, you rock up at school, people win Mercedes and Rolls Royces, and I was living in a 3-bed house on benefit, and my mum was on benefits, right? And I would walk to school because we only had one car and it was clapped out, right? Yeah. So I constantly lived this have and have not. I was constantly seeing what money could buy you, the freedom, and I was like, and I hated people looking upon us with shame, and my dad's family kind of did. So I had this ingrained inside of me. This is apologies, this is a long story, but I was at a very early age, I knew I wanted to get out and get to work. So I didn't go to university. So by the time I was 18, I was fired up and ready to go. I took a job I actually briefly flirted with university and quickly got out after about. There's a side to me that can go off the rails quite quick, and I realised that was that would go. That would just fire that up, and I just blow money. So I left. I got a job, just a crappy job in a pub, and then my mum, God bless her, my mum actually sold me into a job. It's quite unreal, really. I was. Who the hell was going to employ this 18-year-old kid that got really average exam results and was quite good at sport? No one would give a monkeys about me in the city of London or any. I was looking for a job. I did not know. I just wanted to work. My mum went on holiday, met this bloke, and basically spent a week selling me into him. Right? God bless her. And then he eventually caved in and said, "Look, we'll see him." But it wasn't for him. It was for his best mate who had a company. Okay. It just so happens that company was a marketing company, and I arrived. I had a suit from Burton's. And I arrived. There you go. Right, a cream suit, by the way. What was I thinking? And I arrived, and they told me that I was. They'd given me the job. Sorry, I interviewed. They gave me the job. I was quite confident. They offered me £12,500, which I was like, I bit their arm off for it. I mean, little did I know, there's no way you could live in London on £12,500. Yeah. But I got the job they gave me was actually packing boxes in the stockroom. I thought I was joining a marketing company just to have myself as a stockroom boy, and I was dressed in a cream. I was dressed in a cream suit. I remained in that suit, and I got quite well known as every time someone went into the stockroom, I was very chatty. I'd make people laugh. No one told me who the boss was, by the way. The boss looked like he had a shaved head, and I used to take the mickey out of him. He looked like a character from EastEnders at the time, looked like Grant Mitchell. Yeah. So I used to call him that. Little did I know he was the CEO. Yeah. Anyway, he then said, "Who is this kid in the stockroom? He's quite. We need to get him out on the sales floor." And it was because of that, because I think I was quite smart, and people sort of wondered, who is this sort of, reasonably well-spoken stockroom boy dressed in a suit, with quite good chat. We need to get him out on the sales floor, and that was my ticket into the working life. And basically, I was very blessed there. In 7 years I worked there. I became, just under the board level. I was 26. I had a tremendous career. I earned really well. The
City of London.
Yeah. Actually, it was in it sort of Farringdon, Shoreditch kind of way. So at the time when that was all taking off, I worked for a business that had just got in. It was in TV, radio, and just got into digital. So I was at the forefront of like technology as it was rising. It was a promotion. I worked in Ibiza for 9 weeks promoting nightclubs as part of this. I mean, I had a phenomenal...
Living the life, right?
Unreal. And I earned well, I lived well, I met famous people left, right and centre. I travelled the world with this job. It was brilliant. But there's a side to me that is quite wild, quite hedonistic. And in that world, I was getting quite caught up in it. So even though I'd done well, My father died in the middle of all this as well, and I went to work the next day. He died in Venice. His funeral was like something out of a gangster film. I've never seen his coffin went through the canals of Venice with red and white roses on, and it was with monk, and he was buried in the oldest church in the world in Venice with monks ringing bells. I don't to this day I don't quite know how we pulled that off and the connections that happened, but it was a phenomenal event. I literally, that happened, and I went back to work the next day. I went and flew out for he died in front of me. I stayed out there for like 3-4 days, and then we buried him, and then I flew back and went straight to work. I never really dealt with that. So I think behind the scenes there was some stuff going on where I was also, when you're the son of an alcoholic, everyone tells you there's 50% of a chance you're going to be an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, there's a very weird thing I did. I decided to put that to the test, and I went wild for a couple of years afterwards.
Yeah.
Realised I wasn't an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And decided at the age of 26 that I was going to move to Latin America and quit the working world. So I actually resigned just as things were going really well for me. I was aware that my drinking and hedonistic side was getting a little bit out of control, and I just said, acknowledged that I wasn't a boozer or a druggie or anything, because I knew that I wasn't craving it. I'd just gone wild because I was probably dealing with things, but I quit this job. I quit this really successful job. I just walked in and resigned. I looked at I've been out all weekend. Yeah, I've definitely been out for 2 nights on the trot. I looked in the mirror, and I didn't like the person that I was looking back at. I was going straight into work on a Monday, and I decided that's it. I'm not gonna do this anymore. So I walked in and resigned.
There's no plan B at that point.
No plan B.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, I'd come up with a plan that I was going to move to Honduras. I found a charity I was going to work with, and I moved to Honduras and became an English teacher in Latin America, and I did that for a year.
Wow.
I probably should have done a little bit more research on Honduras, because it was the murder capital. I think they had the second highest murder rate in the world.
Yeah.
And I moved myself out there on my own in the January. So I resigned. I had a 3-month notice period, so I resigned 3 months before that, did Christmas, and then flew out in January to Honduras, which was wild. That's a really long answer to your question.
It was. There's a couple of things you said there that really stuck out. So number one, sales. You were really good at sales.
Yeah.
Addictive personality is what I'm picking up.
Well, I would say, I don't know. I think I'm an all or nothing character.
Yeah, let me rephrase it. Yeah, you're going to go in hard.
Yeah, because obviously, given my that word scares me a little bit, because I don't think I'm an addict. I've lived with an addict, But yeah, I'm an all or nothing person.
When 100%. I mean addictive personality, I mean you've got to do everything to the best.
Yeah. And sometimes that could be going out.
It can go, yeah. I get you.
That I think as we get older, that side I've certainly reined in. But if anyone knew me between 20 to 26, they'll tell you.
Yeah, God, there's some stories about me as well. Yeah,
that was that was quite an infamous time. But I'm also very self-aware. And I think you have to be, if you're in work, you have to be as a leader. You have to be very self-aware.
Of course. Where you said, I'll pick up on this word sales. They got you on the sales floor.
Yeah.
You said your dad was closing big deals.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he was in some kind of sales.
Yeah, so he was, a good question. So he was in Lloyd's of London Insurance.
Okay.
Okay. And then he, at the age of like 29, he became CEO of a firm in Los Angeles. So I was born in LA.
Okay.
And he was one of like the youngest CEOs running insurance companies, but he was well known for closing big deals. So he was a sales guy, and pretty much even the deal that obviously that he ended up getting in trouble for. If you were to just look at it from a pure business sense, I mean, it's quite a phenomenal thing they pulled off, right? They were amazing salespeople. I think quite a few con artists are well known for being amazing salespeople, and even after he went through that experience, he was even doing I remember he somehow managed to sell like a load of jeans while he was inside. Like he did a deal shipping some denim jeans, and
inside the knit.
Yeah. I don't quite know how this was pulled off, but I
Yeah.
remember we suddenly got some money one day from this jeans deal. And then afterwards, he was like, he when I briefly saw him after he came out, he was involved in mobile. He was in there he somehow managed to get in the early days of mobile phones.
In the
and was
90s,
shifting
yeah.
Nokia phones.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So he was always a trader by heart, and my uncles are all very successful people, and his brothers, all phenomenal salespeople. So
Do you think you've picked that skill up from him?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Because that's where I was trying to make the link. Because you've obviously seen your dad close big deals, go on a bit of a bender,
Yeah.
and then you've picked up this skill of sales. Because obviously you said you was a stockroom boy,
Yeah.
but they quickly realised, hold on, this kid can sell.
I picked my mum's incredibly charismatic lady as well, and she's incredibly warm. And I had this, even we know we can all pick holes in our parents, but one thing I will say about both of mine was people wanted to be in their company. I recognized that at an early age. So I really, when we didn't have anything, my only thing I had on me was my personality, was charisma.
Yeah.
So I did lean in on that. My interview for the school, I knew I had to pull this off. I knew I was always aware that your personality, that people from an early age, my personality could get me places, and I would always, I think, push. My aunt says that I would always just charm. She said when I was like 5, 6 years old, I'd say to her, "Oh, Auntie Vanessa, you look lovely today." And she'd say, she said, "I've just been charmed on my 5-year-old nephew."
Yeah,
So I guess
yeah.
I had it in me from an early age.
Yeah. My wife always says to me, she goes, you could sell anything to anyone. She goes, you could sell ice to an Eskimo. And she laughs about it. And sometimes when we're having a bit of a disagreement, she goes, I can see the sales side coming out here. I can see what you're doing here. She goes, I've been married to you long enough. And I think sales is it's one of the best skills you can have, I feel, in the world, being able to sell and being able to market. And for me right now, I would never go and get a job where I've employed and paid a wage, because I feel sales and commission only is a huge opportunity for people and a big skill that you need to have.
I think it's at the heart of everything, James. There is, people sometimes consider sales a dirty word, but think about it. In relationships, you are selling to your partner, to your business partner. You're selling your ideas. You're selling. People don't. Every single sales is involved in so many different things in our lives. We're persuading. We're selling to I'm selling to my kids. This is going to be a great idea. You need to do this, and they're phenomenal negotiators back, by the way. They're. Oh, we'll do this and we'll do that. Yeah, everyone, sales plays a fundamental role in everything, in everyone's daily life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is the greatest skill you can have, and don't be afraid of it. Learn it, nurture it, because it's also the one that will get you out of trouble. It's the one that could make your income grow. It's the one I've fallen back on every time in my life. That's managed me to get me a good job, my first client. Moving convincing my wife to move countries, which we've done 3 times now.
Yeah.
All of these things. Sales has been a phenomenal skill to have, and it's allowed me, I think, to build a business and sell it as well. Let's be frank. I'm so grateful for that skill that I've somehow managed to learn how to nurture it and how to use it, and I'm still learning. But I have had phenomenal mentors, and I think to be a good salesperson, you also need to be a great listener.
Yeah. I mean, I had an uncle of mine who used to sell insurance door to door. Back in the days, Filofax, big mobile phone that had a huge battery. They used to wear those big raincoats, proper sales guy. And he said something to me very early on when I was in the print game. He goes, it's a very rare skill to be able to take somebody's money from their pocket and put it into your pocket. He goes, and that's what sales is. And when he said this to me, I thought, that seems like a really hard thing to do. But if the product's right, if you're right, if you believe in what you're selling, it actually comes quite easily.
Yeah, and look, you can't just bowl into selling. You need to understand your customer first of all. You need to listen. The first thing you need to do, it's the first thing I learned in recruitment, which is a phenomenal sales job to have, because you're literally convincing someone to change one job into another. You're persuading them to change a huge part of their life. It's you've got to be a listener. You've got to ask. The first thing they taught me in recruitment was ask big open questions. Find out what's important to that person. What's important to you, and just listen.
Yeah.
And and then you would also know what are your frustrations. Again, just listen, right? So that you would make sure that always the job that you sold into someone ticked all the boxes of what's important to someone and dealt with all their frustrations. It was like, it seemed the most obvious thing, but no one, no, so few people do it.
Yeah.
And that was all about listening, spending literally 25 minutes just listening to someone talk.
Yeah. I mean, I say to my team, when I'm training my team, we're growing the team with 15 of us now, growing slowly. And I say to them, every time I go, look at yourself in the mirror, I go, what's the structure of your face? And they go, what do you mean? I go, what have you got two of? And they go, your eyes. I go, what else have you got two of? They go, ears. I go, what have you got one of? Mouth. I go, so there's a very good reason why you've got two ears and one mouth. They go, what the fuck are you talking about? I go, you've got two ears because you need to listen more in sales. And I always say to my guys, I say, if you actually listen to what the client's saying, they're going to qualify what they need for you. They're going to tell you their pain points. But you guys are too quick to just butt in. And then you're diverting their attention somewhere else. When I go and see a client, there's long pauses of silence when I'm sitting with someone. And there's a very good reason, because I'm letting them talk, I'm listening, and I'm letting them process what they've said. And I say to my team, I said, when you're sitting with a client and they're telling you they've got pain points in the UK, US, wherever, just sit there and listen. You shouldn't be selling them anything. You want to get what they're saying, and then meeting two, you go back with some kind of things to counteract their objections or their pain points. And then suddenly it drops. It's like you said, it seems so bloody obvious. Just open your ears and listen and talk less. Yeah.
I worked out quite early on that the people that did well in business were the numbers people. It was quite obvious to see. So in the first communications company I worked for, they split the business into different segments. Now there was the media and creative art part. And there was actually three. There was production, all the creative studio people. There was the media, the creative team. And then there was the client team. Now, the client team brought in the bag of goodies, right? And then everyone else worked on what the client team worked on. It was quite obvious to me that if you wanted to do well in that business, join the team that brought in the bag of goodies, right? The boss was a salesperson as well. People underneath that were the salespeople. There was one leader from the other side. So obviously, when I looked at the odds as well, there's more chance of me being a leader and recognised person on this side. And that's what I did. I became, and I bloody loved it. In sport, I did pretty well in sport. I was a goalkeeper. I loved the drama of being a goalkeeper. I loved, I could be the hero or the villain.
Yeah.
Right. And so something mildly that appeals to me. So I can be the hero here. Right. So I immediately gravitated towards that. Even when I was teaching for a year, I learned. My arts, I didn't speak Spanish or anything like that. I had to literally go and live with people and get them to know me and persuade them to understand why and develop friendships with me. I learned Spanish quickly, and I was selling to them all the time. I was saying who I am, what I'm about, why they should accept me, like what your culture is. Like I utilized it there, right? And then when I came back, I got offered all sorts of fantastic jobs because I had the international experience, because I would been at digital, in the forefront of a digital from the previous company, and I brought home the bacon in that previous. So I wasn't short of job offers at all. And my journey into recruitment came because I saw a lot of people making really good money in it. And then secondly, no one really understood what I did. So because I'd worked in digital before, I was sending my CV out to recruitment businesses. And they were like, what is digital content? What is digital marketing? This is 2006 in London, right? So they'd send me off to like newspaper sales interviews. I remember I interviewed at the Express for like a display sales, the bloke that sold, newspaper advertising. And I was thinking, why am I here? And he was thinking, why are you here? And I thought, right, screw this. I think I've got an opportunity. That world that I came from that seems to be completely unrecognized by recruitment businesses, it's an underserviced. I reckon I can be the bloke that can tap into that.
So how did you go from English teacher to digital marketing?
I was doing digital marketing before I was an English teacher. So
remember
I told you I worked in the agency.
Oh yes, with the marketing company. Yeah.
Then I left there and went and went to Honduras, I
Yeah.
actually had Spanish because I lived in Spain as a kid. I spoke quite good Spanish. It was somewhere in the back of my head.
Oh, yeah,
my,
it came out.
my Spanish fired
Yeah.
up quite quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got that amazing experience under my belt. I taught kids English. I could speak pretty good Spanish. I'd done a year. I had a gun put to my head and all sorts of stuff there. I had all these great stories I could tell in an interview. But I also had a really poor experience with recruitment companies who were trying to place me. I knew that they didn't understand what I did.
Okay.
So I thought I was an attractive candidate, and they kept sending me to chip bag jobs. They kept sending me to the wrong places. So I thought, and then I met a few people in recruitment that were making a ton of money, and I was thinking, all right. So I joined the dots, and then I knocked on the door of recruitment businesses in the UK who I thought could be interested in this proposition, and not many were, to be honest with you, except for one. And they, a completely different world from what I've come from Shoreditch. That last one I'd worked in London before, trendy agency world, hedonistic lifestyle. I worked in an office opposite the Bank of England. Everyone was in pinstripe suits, to be clean shaven every day. Mm-hmm. It was regimented, and I was in that world, so that regimented world, but servicing this trendy digital marketing world.
Got you.
It was a phenomenal combination, actually, because these guys really trained me hard, trained me well. And I took my experience of working there for 7 years. I was the oldest resourcer there. So I was 27 years old, and everyone at my level that I joined in the recruitment business would just come out of university. So I was the oldest guy there. But as a result of that experience, I progressed super fast.
And you had no degree, right?
No degree.
Yeah.
No degree.
Did you? Were you ever looked down at these guys, thinking, "Oh, what's this guy doing here? No degree." Because it was a big thing back
I never
then,
felt
right?
that. I actually never felt that. They'd always take the mickey at me because of my age, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I was I was like the oldest rookie there.
Yeah.
But
I remember doing that as a young gun to the old boys as well.
Yeah.
Now I'm an old boy.
Yeah. But I quickly became one of the top salespeople, right?
Yeah.
Because I was able to nurture that experience and then learn what they taught me, and then apply that into that environment. And it was a phenomenal success.
Then you're walking around like the Don, right?
Yeah. And people, the CEO knew who I was.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, that bloke who was doing that weird market, everyone was quite interested in it, and the numbers I was pulling in every month were good. So, and then the recession came.
So you were very good at spotting gaps in the markets, from what I'm getting from talking to you.
You know what? Only when you talk about this do you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was obviously I learned, like, my first boss, who's still my mentor and a surrogate father, I'd say. I saw how good being an entrepreneur. I saw the success you could have.
Yeah.
There was a fire in me that made me realise that one day I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It just so happened that opportunity, when I was looking for a job, I saw that this could take me on my path.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then something else happened, which was fundamental, and that was the financial crisis of 2008. Now, I don't know how old your audience are here.
They're probably our age.
Right. But the world went on its arse.
Yeah.
Lehman Brothers collapsed. It was the biggest recession since the Great Depression. The office I was in with these phenomenal recruitment were all in the banking and investment banking industry. Right.
Okay.
I was in front of me. I was watching their markets get decimated. And little old me, who had this sort of back office business that looked after digital and advertising folks, we were still all right. So I could sense then that I was it was quite resilient.
Got you.
But I didn't think that London, I mean, when you're working in the city in 2008, that was not the place to be. It was,
I remember it clearly.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
So my journey to Dubai, and how I got here, was essentially someone who worked with me in that recruitment company had taken a job in Dubai.
In 2008?
Yeah.
So it's very early on, right? Here.
Yeah. And they recommended me to their company.
Okay.
And I got then headhunted by a firm out here in 2008. So while the world was going around its arse, I got headhunted and offered this fantastic opportunity to come out to Dubai. Now, I had to get myself out.
Are you still a single bloke at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Loving it.
Yeah. I was having a great time. I quickly you made a lot of money in recruitment, and I was doing really well.
Were you one of those guys that came here who got the whole package? Like, you got...
Not at all.
Okay.
No, my journey here was a fucking disaster. Excuse my swearing.
That's all right.
But yeah, I think Dubai has a way of testing your resilience in a way many people don't understand. And my landing here was the very definition of a crash landing, because I got offered this job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more money than I had base-wise, but I was earning really good commission in London. But it was tax-free and da-da-da-da-da. When I arrived here, there was a serious supply. First of all, there was hardly any apartments and housing. They failed to mention that to me. So I paid 90,000 dirhams in 2008 for an apartment smaller than this studio, right?
Oh, you serious?
Yeah,
Where did you live?
In JLT.
Okay.
Now, JLT had there was only like 4 towers that
I was going to say, yeah, it's non-existent.
None of the car parks had been finished. And it's important that I tell you this, because when I landed, I had gotten this, none of the agents had anything exclusive, right? And this is I learned as well. I couldn't quite understand it. As you'd walk in one place, 3 agents would be queuing up to show people in the other. And there was such a lack of housing that the prices were going like that. On top of that, the job I was in, it was quite a different vibe to the regimented place I'd come from. People were driving Porsches and all that, and they were kind of, I think it's probably be fair to say they'd had it quite easy. They were in the weirdly enough, it was a real estate business, real estate recruitment business, construction recruitment business called McDonald and Company. Still going today, but I don't think they have a Dubai office anymore. They wanted me to sort of do a certain division for them. It all went to shit, right? Because I arrived September, I think it was September the 11th, actually. It's a strange date, 2008. And the market here, when I say fell on its arse, it catastrophically imploded.
Wow.
I think within 3 weeks of me being here. The office, they then laid off a substantial amount of the team. I just got on with new business, and I became one of the lucky 10 that they kept.
Again, sales,
50.
right?
Yeah, I just leant straight in on that.
Yeah.
I had this apartment. But they put me into a division, facilities management. I mean, I don't know if anyone knows what that's basically placing security guards, cleaners, and all sorts of people that manage buildings. Because they were just thinking, they thought that would be the resilient market. He does sales. It looked like the world has kind
Indians
of like
that can't speak English.
It looked like the world had gone to shit. So I'll just take anything, right?
Yeah.
I knew nothing about this. My background's all in advertising, marketing, creative, digital. I'm learning I'm learning a new country. It's weirdly enough, when I was here as well, the bank, when I went to open a bank account, bank managers were recommending you put a deposit on an apartment, right?
Okay.
Now, that's kind of weird, considering they were lending to the developers, the speculators, and the end users, right? Everyone was flipping. Basically, everyone was flipping, becoming millionaires on paper in 6 months. I met a bloke that would sell places in the queues for properties being launched.
Yeah, they used to do that.
And make a fortune from it. I was thinking, what is this place?
He'd go in and get a unit, walk out, and somebody at the end of the queue sell it to him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah? It's just
nonsense.
Wild. And then all of a sudden, in the block I was in, and the reason I told you that the car parks were only just been built, but the barriers hadn't been put in, it became one of the notorious car park dumping zones. So you might have read about Dubai during 2008.
Just leaving
so they
the
weren't all dumped to that. That's yes, some were dumped at the airport, but most of them were dumped in the city. And a substantial amount were dumped in JLT because the car park barriers weren't up. And I know that because I lived there. And I thought I had incredibly affluent neighbours for a while. And then they never moved the cars. And the collection of dust on them was insane.
Yeah.
Right? So what a mad time to come to Dubai where... Oh, and by the way, the traffic, people moan about the traffic now. The traffic then was insane. You had half the infrastructure that you've got now.
Right.
The city was rammed, and then all of a sudden, there was no traffic. It literally changed like that, because at the time, about half, if not more, of the city was employed in the real estate and construction industry, and that everything stopped.
Yeah, it fell on its arse. Yeah.
I distinctly remember my mum asking me, "Is everything all right?" And she had a copy of the Sunday Times in her hand with a picture of the Burj Al Arab sinking in the sea. Everyone thought I'd totally and utterly screwed up.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I stuck it out. I stayed. And then the longer I stayed, the quicker I realised that actually Abu Dhabi had bailed Dubai out.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. It seems like
Big brother.
No debts anymore.
Yeah.
And the things were starting to improve a little bit. And from talking to other people in other markets, things were not improving there. And so it ended up being actually quite a smart move just from sticking it out. I wasn't going to do facilities management recruitment. I mean, I was killing my soul. That I think I lasted till about March the next year. Then I quit that. And you're probably going to say, what was I going to do next? I thought, right, this could be my moment. I didn't quite know why, but I thought, right, I'm going to try and get into some sort of entrepreneur. Just so happened I had a mate here. He said, you can kind of do something with me and I'll make you a partner. All right, I dabbled with that, didn't enjoy it. He wasn't very true to his word, but that gave me a real flavour for entrepreneurs. And then I saw what he was making on his own.
Right.
So
Lit a fuse, did it?
So I thought, right, I've got to let me understand the lie of the land. I could have actually taken a job back in advertising here then, by the way, in communications, because there was no talent. Interesting observation. No talent here. Everyone's left. I've got that experience. I've now got a year or two under my belt here in Dubai. The cogs are starting to turn now, right? I was under some sort of restrictions before. They didn't apply here. Okay. I then, to finalise my plans, I moved to Koh Tao in Thailand. Why did I move to Koh Tao in Thailand? Very good question. My mate had a dive school there. He went there on holiday after we went to school and never came back.
Yeah.
He was one of the other ones. The only other one didn't go to university. So I went to see him. I became a dive master in Koh Tao and went out on a dive boat every day. And basically, on the back of a fag packet, wrote out what I was going to do, my plan of attack. And I came up with the concept and idea for MCG there. And after being there for a couple of months and thinking, right, can I, psyching myself up, can I do this? Had quite a good time there as well. I came back and I actually came back and looked at staying in Dubai first of all. And at the time, recruitment was ridiculously regulated. I mean, anything that had the word recruitment in it was just a no-no.
Yeah.
Free zones you couldn't touch. So it had to be an onshore business. There was basically, and it was ludicrously expensive. Rents had gone up to being there was still that supply-demand issue. I was like, flipping heck. In order to be here, I might not get paid for 6 months. That's how I planned it. I need like £60,000 or something just to kind of get things going.
And that's back then.
Yeah. It was way harder. Trade licenses were super expensive, everything. So I went back to the UK and I became the Dubai recruiter living out of London. I basically would come out here and abuse my basically all the hospitality of my friends that I had out here. I'd live in their maids' rooms. Okay. And I'd come out and I'd basically make out that I was living in Dubai. I'd go and visit people. I got business.
Love it.
I got business. I was pretty much the first. Oh, and I should say, I realised that my niche was digital and creative. My background, Dubai specialist recruiter. Right. There was no one else doing this. The only other competitors were all these big Michael Page, Robert Walters, the big publicly listed businesses. There was no specialist like I'd been in the UK. I knew Dubai. I knew the industry. I got a decade of experience in the industry, right? There weren't many. How many people had spent 2 years in Dubai and had a decade of experience working in the communications digital world?
That time, none, I guess.
None.
Yeah.
So what you've got to do when you start a business, you've got to build a moat. You've got to create your unfair advantage. I had a weapon of an unfair advantage. So I went out and just met everyone that could possibly work with me. I met them. And they hadn't met anyone like me.
There's your people skills and your sales skills coming back in,
and they all gave
right?
me their business.
Yeah.
And Dubai was just on its way up, having obviously been bailed out. So I hit it at the perfect time. And then from 2010 to 2015, we flew. And for 2 years though, people didn't know this. I talk about it now. I was backwards and forwards. I was living in the UK, so I would come out, abuse my friend's hospitality. And then go back. Again? Yeah. Actually, then at the time I met Helen. So I was working. What I also did to fund this at the beginning was I did the UK. I actually did UK work and did Dubai work. And my first boss, I went back to him. I pitched to him this idea that I would be his internal recruiter for his business, that he'd have to pay me 3 placements up front, but if he did, I would relentlessly work my ass off for him. And I'd also need a desk space in his office. And, you know, God bless him, he said yes. And so I got month one, £12,000.
Yeah.
I had a EC1 address in London.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing this. And at the time, Dubai was working Thursday to Sunday was the weeks, and then the UK, obviously, were Monday to Friday. So I had one day, Sunday, where I could really smash my Dubai stuff, and then I would have to go back into doing the UK. So I was working dual time zones, I was working like a dog.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And then I met Helen, my now wife, who worked for that company. So she'd seen me like walking around the office. I guess you get office goggles, don't you?
Yeah.
And you know, we became a couple in that time.
Mm.
And then I started doing, as my Dubai business really started picking up and actually started to quite significantly overtake what I was making in the UK, I started pitching the idea to her about living in Dubai. So when I would come, or my friends, God bless them, when I would then come out, I've been abusing the hospitality enough for like a year. I then started bringing Helen out.
Question is, did you have to sell yourself to her when you met her? Or was there an automatic click?
Yeah, I guess so. I think there was a click though. You know, I think we were both 31 at the time when we met. How old were we? 31 or 32. I think when you're that age, you know what you like and you know what you don't like.
Yeah,
and we've both been through. Helen had been with someone for 6 years, and you know he proposed and she said no. And I'd had a couple of long-term relationships. I knew that which I'd ended, and I knew what I didn't want.
Yeah.
And we just clicked.
Yeah.
Right? We got married within 2 years of meeting, so I guess that probably tells a story in itself.
Yeah. That's similar to us. We got married very quick, yeah.
There you go. At a similar age?
26 I was, a little bit younger.
A little bit younger. Yeah. And then it just so happened that Helen was, you know, after she was super cool. I mean, like DJ, everything, you know, I was like this recruitment dude who wanted to live in Dubai. She was like, worked at Radio 1 for 11 years, worked in TV, was a well-known DJ, you know, like lived in Dalston, Trinity Park, you know. And I was like, do you want to move to Dubai? And she was up for it, which was great. I actually ended up placing her in a job. I got a fee from my wife, which to this day just cracks me up. You know, she got a job I placed her into an advertising company out here. So we moved out with good runway. Yeah. And even getting a fee from my wife getting a job. And I started hiring. We moved here from 2012. And then we rode a phenomenal wave till 2016. And then 2016, I hit some bumps. Yeah. Some big bumps. Yeah. Okay. And then I want to move it on a little bit because we're short for a little bit of time here. But it's you quite openly talk about you know, investing a shit ton of money in your business. I think I've seen some LinkedIn posts where sometimes it was quite tight. Yeah. You know, where you kind of didn't know, if I'm right thinking you didn't know which way it was going to go at times, right? So that 2016, I learned a lot from that. So I opened up. I did phenomenally well. We were doing multi-7 figures. Mm-hmm. I opened up in Hong Kong. I opened up in London. I invested in 3 businesses, and what else did I opened up another recruitment business in the UK, all in the space of 12 months. Mm-hmm. And it was all funded through the vehicle that I'd originally set up. Then the price of oil collapsed from $120 to $20, pretty much around that period. And from all my customers saying that don't worry, it's not going to affect them, it was quite clear. We were, for whatever, without me knowing, we were heavily exposed to this. And so the funding vehicle for all these things that I'd invested in, the cord got cut. So I had to shut London. I had this, out of all of those things, most things were failing because they were still in their infancy. The Hong Kong one were lit with fuel. I got so lucky with that. I had a great person that joined there, and we hit that market at almost the right time, like I hit Dubai. And that got me out of jail, long story short. I had to let go of a ton of people here, and then I moved some to Asia, and the business took off in Hong Kong. So how did that period feel for you? I was depressed, burnt out. Yeah. At the time, my son was born in 2016. Yep. There's a picture of me holding him, and I'm pretty sure I'm not there. Okay. You know, so it was a real wake up call. I thought everything I was doing up until then was turning to gold. So it was a very humbling experience. Yeah. But actually, you know, you can look back on these things now. it was a real pillar of strength. It's actually been my resilience, which I have in abundance.
Yeah.
It really came together then.
Yeah,
You know?
I think I put a lump in my throat when you said that, because I think everybody needs some kind of disaster in their life just to, number one, it humbles you a little bit, because if you don't have a disaster that, or let me rephrase it, if you don't have a disaster and learn from it, you just walk around like your shit doesn't stink for the rest of your life. You know, you've got this big ego, you're killing it, you're doing well. Sometimes you need a bit of a slap in the arse just to say, you know what, calm down a little bit. You ain't God's gift here. And I've had it. And it, obviously, you had it there and you said it humbled you a bit. I see a lot of people in Dubai where I say to them, I go, guys, you're young. You've never had any real life experience. Like, at some point in your life, I hope it never happens, but you will have a downturn or you will have a disaster where you think, fuck, be prepared for that, because it will come. And I feel you really need that to humble you as a person.
Yeah. And there'll be things out of your control as well. I mean, I look back on 2016 now as my war story and my, I'm not really worried about anything because I got through that.
Yeah.
But then I had COVID. If you run a recruitment business and COVID came in 2020, you were in trouble, right? Now, not many people had nearly gone. See, when I spoke to people in recruitment at that time, I was quite calm. And I realized now I was really calm because I'd had 2016. And in my mind, it couldn't get worse than that because I was so exposed in so many different ways. And by the time 2020 came along, I'd fixed quite a few of those things.
Yeah.
I'd reshaped the business. We were more agile. I was perfect. Everyone we were all could be remote. Everyone was prepared. I was living in Singapore. I just started looking at offshoring into the Philippines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID came, okay, this is quite scary, but I think we can get through it, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd had that before. And actually, we had a good COVID. I know it sounds a weird thing to say.
Yeah, the good COVID.
But we got through it okay. As a business, we came out of it. 2022 was our best year ever as a business. We really, and in 2020, I think I got back on the tools. I think I billed $1 million that year. I actually got, which is nuts considering I did it from a small little cubby hole in the house we were in,
Because I met you in 2021, I think. 2021, yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, 2021, 2022. That
I came back
period.
to Dubai late 21 from Singapore.
Yeah, that's when I met you. Wow. Look, I want to fast forward it for the last bit because the last bit's the exciting bit. Right now, where you are, I think you're one of those guys that's got ultimate freedom now.
Yeah. Well, look, to give context here, so I sold a chunk of my business.
Yep.
I've also sold two.
Was that a good day?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's quite an underwhelming experience because
it looked like a good day from the pictures.
Life carries on. Yeah, I mean, but life carries on.
Sure.
And my wife sold her technology company.
Yeah, I remember.
And I've sold a business previous to that in management buyout. So they're great experiences. I think. I still have my Dubai and Saudi recruitment business, but we decided to change our life. We've lived in Dubai on and off for a long time. I've been here on and off for 17 years. That brief interlude with Singapore. We've been going to Sri Lanka for a decade, and we decided that we would live sort of between Sri Lanka and Dubai and turn things on its head. And we've got money in the bank, and to take a lovely place in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And to come backwards and forward, give the kids a different experience in Sri Lanka. So they now go to an English college there. They finish school at 2:15 and go and surfing by 3 o'clock.
I've seen. Yeah.
Give them a different worldly experience. Mine in a weird sort of way, and I know it was wild, but I had quite a worldly experience. I was born in America, brought up in England. I lived in Spain for a bit, and it was. I think it was quite as a result of having a lot and then losing. Ended up being quite grounded in a way.
Of course.
I think there's a danger sometimes if your kids go into Dubai school for a long time that they think Rolls Royces, Ferraris, and drivers and maids and nannies and stuff like that. They are. That's the way things should be.
My eldest is like that at the moment. He has both my cards on his phone, and he seems to think that it just taps, and at the end of the month he can run up a few thousand and it just gets cleared. I said, no, you wouldn't do that back home in England. Why are you doing it here? Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a danger for them to get too acclimatized.
Well, they know no other. It's your, it's your fault. We put our kids in business class for a bit, and it's like, what the hell did we create these monsters? I'm never doing, unless they catch me in a real soft moment. We're not doing that again.
Yeah, I've had mine cry when he's had to fly economy.
There you go. I didn't fly in I didn't turn left till I was in my 30s.
Yeah, me too.
So I think we wanted just to give them a different worldly experience. Sri Lanka has, whilst there is like an affluent side that I suppose that we're kind of where we're living. It's nice, it's lovely. There's a very poor side to it as well, and I think it's important that they see real life like that. I think it's important they see nature. I think there's, you know, all these experiences. You know, they've lived in Dubai, Singapore, Sri Lanka. I think, and they're from the UK. They get to see the world with a different set of eyes. I also, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I also feel that the education system that we're in right now, that they're learning, I don't feel
it's broken.
It's fit for purpose, right?
Yeah.
Because most of what they're taught, most of what they're experiencing, it's by the time they come out of school, it ain't going to be relevant, right?
Yeah.
We're watching. I own a recruitment company, right? I'm watching AI just do this to jobs.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. And
Yeah.
I say to you, Justin, I'm scared of AI. You know, it's coming, but we're adopting it. And my kid goes to me the other day, goes, Dad, I'm reading Mice of Men. And I'm thinking, I was reading that back in English.
Yeah.
You know, what these skills, are they really needed? But for me, it's a fine line. My wife's a teacher, so if I said that, I'd probably get shot.
Yeah, and look, I didn't go to university, and it served me very well. So, but fortunately, Helen, my wife, had she did the traditional route, but she has quite, like me, has quite a sort of liberal outlook on on how they should be educated and what the world's going to be like, and we're quite open-minded to that, and which I think is, I'm so pleased that we've had that discussion, because there was at one point I was quite scared that it was back to UK, back to boarding school, that was and I don't know if that's a life that would serve us very well, but let's see.
Absolutely.
So at the moment we're living, I've flown in for 3-4 days, and then I'm back to Sri Lanka on Monday. I'm coming back again in about 3 weeks. It's so easy, man. There's like 5-6 airlines a day that fly between Colombo and the UAE. It's not that expensive. I managed to get like $190 return with Air Arabia, or you can jazz it up on Emirates.
Yeah, like you do.
But it's doable. My point is, it's very doable.
I reckon we're going to need to have another episode. When I come out and see you in November, we need to shoot one on the beach.
Absolutely.
Because there's still a lot more I want to talk to you about, but I want to wrap it up because these guys are going to kick us out soon. You, in my opinion, have created freedom, like, because I see it, right? And I talk to you about it a lot. And I think we've had this discussion before. Like, I always say to Justin, there's something missing. You know, we've got money, we've got a great life, got the toys, all of that. But still, deep down, you feel there's something missing. And I think you hit the nail on the head when we were discussing, and you realize that, maybe you do need to be around nature. Maybe you do need these open seas, this sand, this blue sky, and all of that. And, I look at you and I think, wow, that's where I need to be. Do you think there comes a period in your life where you just think the hustle needs to stop or the grind needs to slow down?
I don't know if it needs to stop, but I think there's a different way of doing it. I don't think sat in traffic for 2 hours a day is the way I wanted to live my life anymore. I don't feel like, I love Dubai.
Yeah.
I love the opportunity and what it's given me. But I always look at life, I look at what my return of investment is. Okay. Now, granted, I view this with older eyes. Yeah. When I came here, I looked at what I got return of investment 15 years ago. When I set the business up, what I put in, what I got back. I don't know if you get the same back now. And I still feel there's a lot of benefits you can have from being in Dubai. I think it's a great investment place. I think it's a phenomenal ecosystem. I think networking here is brilliant. Yeah. But I feel like there's another way of doing it. I think you can use, what I'm trying to do is use all the benefits that I can have with Dubai, the banking, the business, the infrastructure, having a staff here, but be able to live somewhere that's in close proximity, the lower cost of living, and higher, and it means that I can get around everywhere in 5 minutes in a tuk-tuk.
Yeah, I love that.
And also it gives me the flexibility to go to Europe in the summer. And the dream for us has always been to create a life where we get to utilize Dubai, we can live somewhere as beautiful as Sri Lanka, and then we can be in UK and Europe in the summer as well. And that to me is designing a life by design, and that's what I focused on.
Well, Justin, my last question to you is quite a morbid question, but I hope you live to 100 plus. When it's all said and done, how do you want people to remember Justin McGuire? Because right now you're MCG. Yeah. Kind of shifting out, but how do you want people to remember you once it's all said and done? As a kind person. I think it's I
I want people. I used to just to say, I used to be as a leader. I used to be known for being a real ball buster, and I never got the best out of people. In fact, I got a bit of a rep for being an arsehole. And I say that because I really paid a lot of attention to that. And as I've realised, as I've got older, actually the lasting impression you have with you is if you're a kind person, people will want to meet you again, people want to do business with you again, and people will want to spend quality time with you. And it's all I want in life is to spend quality time with people now.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I'm not obsessed with having lots and lots of friends. I'd just rather spend a small period of quality time with people who I really enjoy my company and I enjoy theirs. And so I think people will want to spend time with me if they think I'm a kind person.
Well, I feel privileged, mate. I feel privileged to have your time.
Thank you.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. Guys, if you want to build a 7-figure business like Justin has, I know Justin's got a really, really good program that people are taking good advantage and getting some really good hot tips from. I'm going to put all of that stuff down in the show notes so you can go and give him a follow. Do follow him because he's got an amazing LinkedIn profile, gets serious impressions. He's going to teach me a trick or two as well. But definitely going to do an episode again in November when I see this guy out in Sri Lanka, maybe on the beach over a cold beer possibly, background noise. But Justin, thank you so much for giving up your time today and joining me on the J2Hub podcast.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.